Those who face eternity easily forget what a lifetime means, what an ending means.
You know it doesn't have to be this way.
No, Kunavine, it does. They need me.
Welcome, End of Dragons Daily 56, or is it 57? One of those two. I hope you guys are all having a good day. Got a variety of miscellaneous things as we continue along with the Ranger discussion today. And I also have here at the start the results of the poll that I threw up. Now, I've mentioned this on like 3 videos, but I only actually did it about a day ago exactly. So here's the results. Almost 6,000 of you voted, and of the people watching the channel, this is the results of when you guys joined the franchise. It kind of lines up about where I imagined. So a very good chunk, 29% of you were at the prophecy/factions era, which technically is my start as well. The truth is I never really properly got into the game until the Nightfall/Eye of the North era and the wait for Guild Wars 2, which is just 12% of you guys. Then a big chunk at launch. And then the 2 lowest categories are actually Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire. Now, I'll say I did have a fair few comments from you guys on the poll. The way that YouTube does this is like, it's like a video almost, so it gets its own comment section and stuff. And I saw quite a few of you guys were saying, oh, I joined really recently. And that kind of means the Path of Fire era, maybe you joined at the start of Icebrood Saga, which could have been like a year and a half back now, even 2 years old, and you would be Icebrood Saga, which is interesting, but they are the smallest category. I guess the newest expansions haven't captured that many new people, at least new people that then end up coming to this channel. But I do think this is somehow representative of a lot of the Guild Wars 2 player base makeup, probably, at least on some level. My original idea for the poll was actually to do something much more accurate. I wanted to do pre-prophecies, like see who was in the betas. I actually got linked to a really cool website showing off some beta stuff, which maybe I'll show you guys later. But I wanted to do a section for that, and then I wanted to do prophecies, factions on its own, Nightfall on its own, and so on and so on, even include the Living World sections. But a YouTube poll can only have 5 options, as it turns out. So this is how I kind of broke it down. And I think it made sense. Anyway, it was quite interesting, and maybe I'll do some more and we can spotlight some more on the show, since we'll be here so regularly right up until the X-Pack. I figure, hey, why not? Also, just before the real questions, we've got Jump7 Shot here mentioning my addendum. Well, it wasn't an addendum. I sort of affixed it at the start of the video. My little note about how the footage yesterday got broken. He says, you sound like the nicest, grumpiest person. Well, that's just British to a T. Hold on, though. That was actually the second take that I did. The first take I did was right after the crash and I rebooted my PC. And when I listened back to it, I realized I sounded really angry, so I kind of redid it and sort of put a little bit more of a pleasant tone on it. But yeah, hopefully today you will be watching Echovaled Forest stuff, unless there's some disastrous twist of fate. Next, we've got Zhu Zhang, who says, maybe I'm a bit late, but I wanted to post this. I just watched your 2018 Factions playthrough recently. Wait, that was a 2018 playthrough? That was a 2019 playthrough, wasn't it? Because it was after they announced the Icebrood Saga. Maybe I did one in 2018 as well, but it was a Twitch thing. It wasn't the abridged one. It was a full playthrough. That could be what you're talking about. Yeah, I guess, because the other one was 2020, not 19. Man, we've done a lot of playthroughs. Anyway, in it, you read out every story of every hero inside the Tanakai Temple. For anyone out the loop who doesn't understand this, it's just a location you go to during that story where you can read about these great heroes of Cantha's past. One of the big important things about the culture there is how much they revere heroes of previous days. They're very Norn-like in that way. And the Tanakai Temple gave you a good wall of text on all these interesting stories from heroes through the previous 1,000 years of Canthan history. Don't forget that Canthan human history is actually older than human history that you would find up north around Ore and so on. You know, these people have been here for a long time. And ArenaNet were amazing with the quantity of exposition and detail and world building that they put in with the Factions expansion. So you just got all this detail. Right, it made me wonder if the devs can do some elite specializations based on those legends. Like the Ranger one, the story talks about a wizard who sucked energy from the forest, and the hero Zojin, with his friends, charmed every animal they encountered and used them to crush the wizard. To me, that sounds very fairy tale like, that particular story. To me, this sounds like a spec where Rangers can get 2 pets, maybe one stronger, one weaker, or simply get utility skills that's themed around hundreds of animals, like a utility skill that summons a group of bulls that will knock back your enemy and bleed them or something. Or maybe do an anti-legend one, where we become become the wizard and use nature life force. You get what I mean? Maybe they can do every elite spec around this area. Put the assassin one on thief and so on. There is, however, no legend for guardian, rev, or engineer. They can put the monk one on guardian, ritualist. In Rev, that leaves Engineer. I'd say Cantha, if Cantha is truly tech advanced, then this wouldn't be a big problem. But if not, then we shall see. I really liked this comment because not only did it allude to some of the fun old stories that are just hidden away there in Canthan subject material, but that I really do think the devs could do this. It's kind of a nice reminder that there is so much that the studio can pull from if they like, that it's almost a little bit unpredictable to see where they'll go, you know? Like, we think big, obvious topics for elite specializations, but they can go more obscure. And when you look at, like, Path of Fire and the Kala legend, you know, that is kind of the same thing happening. It's lore written around Guild Wars 2 and written around the Char, but it's an elite specialization that is themed around a piece of history to do with a certain peoples on the planet. And this would just be that same process happening here. I don't think we'd get all of the elite specializations for what it's worth, but one, maybe even two, I could see definitely happening. It's just a matter of which ones. Matoro says, Scrapper was fitting for the jungle, at least, because, well, Verdant Brink was literally full of scraps, but yes, it was from the Char, same as Kala. I think the light armor releases classes of Heart of Thorns were the least tied in. Am I wrong? Yeah, you know, I actually had a few comments about this. Yeah, on previous video, I said that, you know, the Scrapper had absolutely no basis in Heart of Thorns, and yeah, it was there anyway, so whatever, it doesn't have to be explicitly tied. And a lot of you guys did, you know, someone posted, there is one sentence of hand-wavy waffle, essentially, that appeared on one of the blog posts around the time of Scrapper coming out, that vaguely tied it to the jungle. And they say, aha, WP, look, it was tied to the jungle. I don't really buy that. I don't think there was enough. It's Scrapper lore, it's Char lore, and it was kind of flung in. You can justify anything in a quick hand-wavy way if you like, but it's not properly integrated, and I don't buy that it was. But, you know, there is kind of this idea that, yeah, all the scrap from the fleet's fallen down, and we're maybe piecing it together. It's just that that's like an implied link. I think all that's missing, really, is a very specific moment where in the jungle we meet some, you know, lost pact members. Their fleet's been shot down, and there's Char among them, and the Char specifically talk about how they are scrappers, and they've taught everyone around them how to cobble together these turrets and stuff. You use Verdant Brink as an example. I actually think, like, the Scar lane in Tangled Depths is a really great example as well. And if that very specific thing had been there, then I could say, well, yeah, there you go, that's a better justification. But Heart of Thorns didn't do any of that. It certainly didn't for stuff like the Chronomancer, I'll give you that. This is one of the great things about POF. POF just basically improved a little bit on the collections, but gave us those NPC representatives, and that meant so much. And the devs knew that it was cool too. All those characters got their own minis and stuff. If End of Dragons does the same thing again, but improves even further still, I think we'll find this next wave of elite specs feel really integrated in a lot of cool ways. Next, we've got Ben, who said, the Commando used to seem like such a joke. It doesn't seem so crazy now. There was a point where a very vocal minority of people would say guns in general, grenades do not belong in the game. Yeah, the Engineer was actually a controversial release. People might not remember this, but because if you looked at some of their skill animations, and remember when they very first announced these professions to us, they were showing these skill videos like you saw in the footage yesterday. When you look at these skill animations, some of them for the Engineer look very, like, real-world techie. Like, the Mine, in particular, had a lot of feedback, I remember, on the Guild Wars 2 Guru forums, because it had a red LED light on it. And it's like, wow, have Tyrians really invented LEDs? You know, this blinking red light? This is not immersive. This is not what I want to see, blah, 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 blah. Nobody really thinks about it whatsoever anymore. But to the general idea that the Commando used to be a joke, and it's not too crazy now, it is crazy. All right, I showed you 2 skill videos from the Commando in yesterday's video. What I didn't show you is the one that proposed they have a skill that is an airstrike, where Apache helicopters come flying on the screen and actually, like, properly nuke people. Some of the abilities that they show off are really, really ludicrous. And I actually regret saying yesterday that the Commando might be possible. If you actually go back and look at what they did with the Commando, it's so ludicrously over the top. I think never in a million years. Maybe they'll take the name as an allusion to the April Fool's joke of yesteryear, but you won't actually see it implemented anything like what ArenaNet was saying there. As fun as it would be, I grant you that. Next, we got Tig Stripe. who says, who's responding to the idea of the Tengu guarding a relic of some kind within the Dominion of Winds. And I just want to say that Tig here is going against my idea. A lot of you guys really liked it too, so it's been a mixed bag of a response. They say, I kind of doubt it. In the Dragon Response mission, we get to experience a Tengu youth's inexperience with the outside world, yet there's this tangible longing from her about the outside world that makes it feel like the Tengu really are just traditionally xenophobic. It's boring, but there's nothing wrong with that explanation. They've been hurt in the past and are guarding themselves from further harm. It's going to take a new generation of outwardly looking Tengu to crack that shell. Either that, or a big world-shattering event that forces them to open their gates to the other races. Well, look, I get what you're saying, but I have to say I do disagree with the response here, because it's kind of a false dichotomy you're giving me. We're not in an either-or situation. It can be true that the Tengu are traditionally xenophobic, that they've been hurt in the past, that they're guarding themselves from further harm, that their youth don't know much about the outside world, and at the same, it can also be true that they have further incentive to continue this lifestyle and culture because a specific number of the elite are in the know about some great relic, some great secret that they're holding on to. You know, there can be, I don't want to suggest it's some full-blown conspiracy within the Tengu's walls, but I think that both ideas can actually feed into one another, and it's not like every random Tengu youth knows all their biggest state secrets, so to speak. And I know we get like this weird impression nowadays that the Dominion of Winds isn't even that big because we're so used to zooming around the full perimeter of it and on a mount in like 5 minutes while we're playing the game or whatever. But it is a big area of the world, and there should be the capacity for a lot of interesting stuff to go on and intrigue. And you know, I think that we can have our cake and eat it too on this one. And you know, they don't contaminate one another, do they? So this last question, or comment I should say really, is on the idea of traditional quests, which we talked about on a previous part, and I actually have some other insights I want to talk about with this. So it's from Luke, who said, holy shit, I almost had a heart attack when you said my name, but yeah, when you explained it out, the hearts are like standard quests, they just felt different to the norm to me. So a couple of days back, I kind of made the case that hearts are Guild Wars 2's traditional quests. And I still stand by that idea. They're definitely that stand-in feature, right? And they're definitely padding out the amount of content that's in the game in all the ways that other MMOs kind of soullessly use traditional quests. And I kind of like made it seem like they're almost as good in every respect. There was one respect I gave as an example where hearts are not as good as traditional quests, and I said that like in terms of range. What I meant was you can pick up a traditional quest in Divinity's Reach, and perhaps it's asking you to go kill some enemy or a demon in a dungeon in Claypool, and so now you're on an adventure all the way from Divinity's Reach to Claypool to kill the guy, and then maybe your reward NPC is somewhere further off at Fort Salma or something. They can actually spread you a lot further. They can guide you around. Renowned Hearts really can't do that. They can't guide you anywhere. They're just there as an excuse to get you to do stuff, in theory, while you wait for the real meat and potatoes of the game, and that's the dynamic events. That was how the devs actually described it to us. Of course, we know by the end of development, so many maps were so devoid of dynamic events, or the events ended so fast or didn't cycle fast enough, that quite often that the hearts are the only content. There's nothing else going on. A great example of this in action, by the way, is in Queensdale, one of the original maps where everything's, you know, really quite purely designed. The God's Lost Swamp Heart takes a really long time to do. Have you guys ever noticed that? While you're down there grinding on the shades and closing the portals and stuff, it takes ages. The reason it takes ages is because they want you there ages to increase the chances on average across the game's population that people will be there when the Shadow Behemoth spawns, and you'll actually catch this big epic world boss. In the game and the culture of today, we all know about the world boss, and there are timers, and it's all structured very differently, but that was the idea. The heart holds you in the area until the main event, the dynamic events, triggers. And in that way, I think Renowned Hearts are fine, but they do have other problems too. See, here's a funny thing. I just 2 days ago finally started playing Final Fantasy XIV. I kind of want to be able to play some of these other big popular MMOs and make decent comparisons, and it's already been really interesting seeing how Final Fantasy XIV's mentoring system seems to have just been lazily copied almost into Guild Wars 2 just because, and how Final Fantasy XIV has like the Fate system, which is basically their dynamic events, and seeing how the MMOs all just sort of pilfer stuff from one another is really kind of fantastic. But in that game, they have traditional quests and they have dynamic events, the Fate system, and I think it just works so much better over there. And there's another nice thing that you can get out of the traditional quest idea, and that's the concept of being able to offer specific items to NPCs as a part of quests. We see with Renown Hearts, there is a little bit of that. Maybe you kill an enemy and it drops like scale eggs, and then you hand the scale eggs into the Renown Heart at the end and it bumps you up a bit. But in Guild Wars, you kind of lose a lot because it's all very on rails. You always know that the item you're collecting while in that Renown Heart area is going to that NPC and nowhere else, and then you're just going to delete the other ones. It just, even before you become like a jaded vet that's done too much of it, there's kind of no magic. Yet with traditional quests, you can have people combining items and offering different items to different people in different ways, and you can play a lot more with it. So I do think that there is still a lot more traditional quests can do, and I would hope to see this franchise looks back at them at some point. So there you have it, guys. Keeping it short and sweet for today. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed some of the Echo Valve footage in the background, and I will see you for the next one. We're going to round out the Ranger discussion tomorrow, and then I'm going to try and figure out a new topic. You guys can propose them down in the comments if you like, and we'll see where we go. Thanks, everybody. Just another reminder, the guild is still recruiting. We are getting closer to the player cap now. We've got 500 people we're going for on EU, and 500 people we're going for NNA. So once we've got 1,000 people, I'm going to go through a process where we like cull people down and figure out who's most active and stuff like that, and we'll keep recruiting again. We're just building up and up and up. It's really a very, very cool time at the moment. Thanks to everybody who tried to join, and if you still want to join, just hit the link to the Discord in the description and you'll be able to see from there. Cheers, everybody. See you next time. Oh, and propose me more ideas for like polls. What could we poll next? I like the idea of doing more.